Hey everybody, Ian Hill here. Happy Thursday. Sitting in my hotel room in Calgary, just got to spend the day in Okotoks, and thank you to the Primary Care Network for inviting me to be a part of their Healthy Communities Now conference. I got to meet a lot of people that are participating in the program from various communities that are a part of becoming a community builder, and I got to meet a lot of other outstanding people who care deeply about building healthy communities. So what are we doing now? Final installment of this discussion on pride. How do you build community pride? We talked about building pride in an organization. We talked about building pride in individual employees or volunteers. And I gave you a special message yesterday about giving people who you're charged with leading something to be proud of. Now we're going to talk about building community pride. So what's the first step in building community pride? Well, I would suggest to you that the first step is a proactive identification of the differentiating factors in your community. Differentiating factor, what sets you apart? Because what sets you apart is something that usually people would take pride in, because we're special. We're special because we have this lake. We are special because we have this river. We're special because we have this mountain. Or we're special because we have this heritage. In our past, our forefathers accomplished this, this, and this. Or how about this? We're special because of our athletic prowess in a certain athletic activity. Or maybe we're unique, or what differentiates us is our creativity. We have artists of all kinds in our community. What is it that is your differentiating factor? What is it that sets you apart from other communities? That's something that people can be proud of. Now, frankly, you have a lot of consultants out there. You have a lot of people out there who will come and you can pay them and they'll tell you, here's what your brand should be. But I think it's simpler than that. What's our differentiating factor? And there's something special that happens when I proactively identify it. Because when I proactively identify it, it's easier to tell that story. So what is it that sets your community apart? What is your differentiating factor? It's interesting that when you look at ancient cities, when you look at times gone by, you'll notice that they erected monuments to their differentiating factors. So to always remind the citizenry what they could be proud of. Well, I think we can take a page from that, even though there's not a lot of monument building going on in today's day and age. It reminds us that we must regularly reinforce that value of that differentiating factor, the uniqueness of that differentiating factor, and why we're special. Why are we special? So once you establish what the differentiating factor is, you want to be evangelizing that differentiating factor. And there can be no gap between that differentiating factor and what actually occurs. So if you hang your hat on, let's say we have great food, that there's great restaurants in our community and we take pride in our culinary prowess, well, then you better have great food. Or we take great pride in being innovative and creative. Well, then you better always be innovative and creative. Sometimes you see communities that say, we take great pride in being so-and-so and such, and then when you get to the community, their practice is way out of alignment with their principle. So whatever you're going to claim your differentiating factor to be, or that thing we should be proud of, you better make sure it's true. Now, the next step in that is some kind of outside validation. So if there's some award that you could receive, or if there's some competition that you could be a part of, who else is saying that your differentiating factor is valid? Now, it could be as simple as a bunch of comments on a Facebook page that everybody said they had a great experience because your community was such and such and so. I'll use the example right now of Nanton. Nanton has established that they are authentic Alberta. I challenge you, go to their website, go to nanton.ca, their new website, and you know what? It looks awesome. It looks awesome. And it has accents and colors and pictures. And you know what? That website, its interactivity, its community engagement, it would make you want to go there. It is authentic Alberta. Why? You say, well, how could a website be authentic Alberta? It's warm, it's welcoming, it's easy to navigate. It is authentic Alberta. It is kind, friendly, warm, welcoming. So there is no gap between Authentic Alberta and their website. That's what I mean by establishing that differentiating factor and making sure that when I experience whatever you say it is, that it was true to me. Next, an all-out commitment to cleanliness and first-class activity. Cleanliness. Whether that's doing neighborhood cleanups throughout the spring and rallying the troops of citizenry in various neighborhoods and having community-wide cleanup, or it's making sure that our public works departments or even private citizenry providing the funds, maybe the Chamber of Commerce or business community, to make sure those curbs are painted, make sure the street lines are painted, make sure that whether it's our downtown core, the most visible places, make sure they look crisp, make sure they look sharp. Make sure that if we have public entities or private entities, no handwritten signs. I know that sounds crazy, but no handwritten signs. Let's do everything we can first class. Why? All studies show that people rise to the context that they operate in every single day. You can do an exploration, and many of you have heard of the broken windows theory. It's clearly articulated in Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point when he talks about how New York turned itself around. You know how one of the ways New York turned itself around? From being a pit of crime where you and I wouldn't travel to now being a great travel destination for people all over the world? They made an all-out commitment to cleaning up the subway. When a train would go in at night covered in graffiti, they made an all-out commitment that by the time it came out the next morning, it was clean. They cleaned it up. The broken window strategy. If there's a broken window, it gets repaired within 24 hours. That does a couple of things. One, it absolutely sends the message that someone's paying attention. And bad actors will go where no one's paying attention, and they'll stay away where they perceive someone's paying attention. Two, to citizenry, it says somebody cares. And all studies show when citizenry believes that somebody cares, they'll care too. And then finally, they will model that behavior. They will model the behavior of the context that they're operating in on a daily basis. Finally, I would suggest to you there has to be significant celebration. Celebration helps build pride. Just like when we talked about that in individual employees and volunteers, I think the same is true in community. So whether that's volunteer awards, that every year we bring together all the volunteers of the community and celebrate what they're doing, whether that's awards in business for awards of excellence of small business, mid-level business, and larger businesses, or whether that's celebrations of neighborhoods, clean neighborhoods, well-maintained neighborhoods, whatever. Or finally, how about this? What about just celebrating community champions? The lady who takes in all the cats in town, the gentleman that is for so many years has helped with such and so, maybe spending their own money. Maybe you establish a walkway of community heroes or a pathway of community heroes so that we recognize and begin to establish those monuments of individuals and organizations that are exhibiting the qualities and attributes that we would take pride in aligning with. Now, any one of those things that I've mentioned might not be the catalyst for increased pride, but the cumulative effect of all of those things working together, you will increase the pride capacity within your community. Now, obviously, you're going to look at me and say, but how would I do any of that? Go back to gaining buy-in. Go back to 100 cup of coffee strategy of building those trusting relationships. So how you deploy on the ground, we've already talked about. But these are some simple steps that you can take, in my opinion, low-cost steps, frankly, low-cost steps that you can take to build greater community pride. 1, differentiate yourself. What are your differentiating factors? 2, make sure there's no gap between that what you claim to be and what happens on the ground every day. Then you got to make sure that there's an all-out commitment to cleanliness and doing things first class. And then finally, make sure you're celebrating celebrating volunteers, celebrating excellence in business, celebrating excellence in education, and the like. All of that, the cumulative effect, in my opinion, will be an increase in the pride capacity. Okay, hey, we're going to do the final teaching session tomorrow on Friday. I look forward to it. I also look forward to seeing you in your community in the first full week of February. I believe that email is going out soon. Maybe it's going out today, I think. All right, good to talk to you. Take care, everybody.